Admiral Helena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the TCS Defiance and watched the stars through the main viewport. She had served in the Terran Navy for 30 years. She had seen battles, pirates, and colony rebellions. But she had never seen anything like this. The sensor officer spoke first, his voice shaking. "Admiral, we are detecting 400 unknown vessels. They just appeared from fold space at the edge of the Sol system. 400 ships." Helena felt her stomach drop. The entire Terran fleet had maybe 200 combat vessels spread across 12 colony worlds, and these unknown ships were huge. Each one was at least 3 times the size of the Defiance. "Show me," she said. The main screen changed to show the alien fleet. The ships were beautiful in a cold way. They looked like silver blades, sharp and perfect. They moved in exact formation, like a machine with 400 parts working as one. "We are receiving a transmission," the communications officer said. "It is on all frequencies. Universal translation is working." Helena nodded. "Put it through." A face appeared on the screen. It was not human. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth that did not move the way human mouths did. But somehow, the translation made its words clear. "Primitive species of the 3rd planet," the alien said. "I am Commander Vorthax of the Zethkai Galactic Empire. We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. Every intelligent species in this region of space serves us. You will now join them." Helena said nothing. She just watched. "You have 2 choices," Vorthax continued. "First, you may submit. You will surrender all military vessels. You will accept imperial governance. Your species will be integrated into the Empire as a servitor class. You will work, you will serve, and you will be permitted to exist." The alien paused. His 4 eyes seemed to look directly at Helena through the screen. "Second, you may refuse. If you refuse, we will destroy your military forces. We will burn your colonies. We will reduce your homeworld to ash. Your species will end, and the galaxy will forget you ever existed." The screen changed again. Helena watched in horror as images played. Burning cities, shattered moons, ships exploding in the void, species she had never seen, dying by the millions. World after world, destroyed. "These are the species that refused us," Vorthax said, returning to the screen. "We show you this not as a threat but as a kindness. We want you to understand that resistance is not possible. It has been tried. It has always failed." The alien's mouth moved in what might have been a smile. "You have 72 standard hours to respond. We will wait. We are patient. We have been doing this for a very long time." The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Helena could hear her own heartbeat. She could see the fear on every face around her. These were good officers, brave men and women. But they had just seen the death of civilizations. "Admiral," her first officer said quietly. "What do we do?" Helena did not answer right away. She was thinking. She was watching the alien fleet on the screen, those perfect silver ships in their perfect formation. She was remembering the way Vorthax had spoken, so confident, so certain, like a farmer telling an insect to accept being crushed. Something about that confidence bothered her, not because it was wrong to be confident with 400 warships, but because it felt old, practiced. Like Vorthax had given this speech 1,000 times and had never once been surprised by the response. "Send word to Earth," Helena said finally. "Emergency transmission to the War Council. Tell them we need to meet. Now." The next 6 hours were chaos. Emergency sessions across Earth. Panic in the streets as news leaked. Leaders arguing, shouting, some of them crying. Helena attended the War Council meeting through a secure channel, watching presidents and generals and admirals debate the end of humanity. Some wanted to surrender. "What choice do we have?" one politician demanded. "You saw those images. You saw what they did to other species. At least if we submit, we survive." Others wanted to fight. "We cannot just give up," a general shouted. "We are human beings. We do not kneel. We will die." The politician shot back. "Is your pride worth extinction?" The argument went back and forth. Helena stayed quiet and listened. She was still thinking about Vorthax, about that old, practiced confidence. Finally, someone asked her directly, "Admiral Vasquez, you have seen the enemy fleet. You have more combat experience than anyone here. We need your assessment. Can we fight them?" Helena took a breath. Every eye was on her. "No," she said. "We cannot fight them. Not in the way you mean. If we line up our ships and shoot at their ships, we lose. Their fleet is larger, their technology is better, and they have 12,000 years of experience. In a straight fight they will crush us in days." The room went quiet. Some faces showed despair, others showed anger. "However," Helena continued, "I do not think we should surrender." "You just said we cannot win," the politician said. "I said we cannot win a straight fight. But I have been studying the enemy, and I noticed something. Their fleet formation is perfect. Their ships are identical. Their commander speaks like someone who has done this many times and has never been surprised." She leaned forward. "That tells me something important. The Zethkai have not faced a real challenge in a very, very long time. They have a way of doing things, and it has always worked. Every species they conquered either gave up or tried to fight the traditional way, and they all lost. So what are you suggesting?" the general asked. Helena smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just seen a very dangerous path forward. "I am suggesting that we do not fight their war. We make them fight ours. Humanity has spent its entire existence fighting itself. World wars, colonial conflicts, rebellions, terrorism. We have been killing each other in creative ways for thousands of years. We know things about war that a species with 12,000 years of easy victories has forgotten." She stood up. "We cannot beat them with strength, but we can surprise them. We can confuse them. We can make them bleed in ways they have never bled before. And maybe, just maybe, we can make them decide that we are not worth the trouble." The War Council looked at her in silence. "What do you need?" the president finally asked. 72 hours, Helena said. "And permission to do things that are going to look completely insane." The president nodded slowly. "You have both." Commander Vorthax sat in his command chair and watched the human activity with mild interest. His sensors showed ships moving across human space. Communications were flying between their worlds. The primitive species was panicking, just as every other species had panicked before them. He had done this 217 times in his career. He knew how it went. First came the fear. Then came the desperate hope that maybe, somehow, they could fight. Then came the realization that they could not. And finally came the surrender. Some species took all 72 hours. Some gave up in the first few hours. It did not matter. The result was always the same. "Commander," one of his officers said, "the humans are dispersing their fleet." Vorthax looked at the tactical display. The officer was right. Human ships were not gathering for a defensive stand. They were scattering in all directions. Some were heading to asteroid belts. Others were moving to moons and empty regions of space. "Interesting," Vorthax said. "They are running away. Should we pursue, Commander?" "No. Let them run. When the 72 hours end, we will hunt them down. It will take longer, but the result will be the same. Running does not save anyone." He dismissed the human movements from his mind. They were not important. Nothing the humans did could be important. But if Vorthax had looked more carefully, he would have seen something strange. The ships that were scattering were not carrying refugees. They were carrying weapons, supplies, and equipment, and they were not running randomly. They were going to very specific locations. Admiral Helena Vasquez had given her orders, and humanity was preparing for war. Across human space, things began to happen. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, mining crews stopped mining and started building. They attached engines to asteroids. They hollowed out rocks and filled them with explosives. They created weapons that no civilized species would ever think to create. On the colony world of New Singapore, scientists worked without sleep. They studied the Zethkai transmission, learning everything they could about the enemy's technology. They found weaknesses. The Empire's ships used a central command system. They relied on perfect communication between vessels. They were designed to work together, like parts of a machine, and machines could be broken. In shipyards across human space, workers modified civilian cargo ships. They added armor plates. They installed weapons. They filled cargo holds with nuclear warheads. These ships were not meant to survive. They were meant to crash into enemy vessels and explode. The workers knew what they were building. They built them anyway. Helena watched all of this from the Defiance. She felt proud of her species. Scared, yes. Sad, yes. But proud. When faced with extinction, Humans did not simply accept death. They fought. They created. They refused. Her first officer, Commander James Okonkwo, brought her reports every hour. He was a young man, only 35, but he had a sharp mind. "The enemy fleet is not moving," he reported. "They are just waiting at the edge of the system." "Of course they are," Helena said. "They think they know how this ends. They have done this so many times that they cannot imagine any other outcome." "Do you think our plan will work, Admiral?" Helena was quiet for a moment. "I think we will surprise them. I think we will hurt them. Whether that will be enough, I do not know. But I know that I would rather die fighting than live as a slave." James nodded. He felt the same way. The hours passed. Across human space, preparations continued. Soldiers trained for close combat. Pilots practiced flying patterns that broke every rule of traditional space warfare. Hackers prepared electronic attacks designed to disrupt enemy communications. And slowly, a plan came together. Not a plan to win. Winning was not possible. But a plan to cost the enemy so much that they might decide humanity was not worth the price. At the 48-hour mark, the Zethkai sent another message. Vorthax appeared on screens across human space. "Humans," he said, "you have 24 hours remaining. We have observed your preparations. You are dispersing your forces and hiding in asteroid fields. This is foolish. We have sensors that can find you anywhere. We have weapons that can destroy asteroids. Your hiding will not save you." He paused, and his 4 eyes narrowed. "We offer you one final chance. Surrender now, and your species will survive. Your people will serve the Empire, but they will live. Your children will live. Is your pride really worth their lives?" The transmission ended. Helena watched it without expression. Then she turned to her communications officer. "Send my response," she said. The response was short. It was a single image. The flag of the Terran Confederacy, a blue planet surrounded by 12 stars, representing Earth and its colonies. Below the image were 3 words: "Come and take." Vorthax received the message in his command chair. He stared at it for a long moment. Then he laughed. "Brave," he said. "Stupid but brave. I almost admire them." His officers waited for orders. "When the deadline passes, we advance," Vorthax said. "Standard pacification protocol. Destroy their fleet first, then burn their colonies one by one. Save their homeworld for last. Let them watch everything they built die before we kill them." The officers nodded. They had done this before. It was routine. The last 24 hours passed slowly. On Earth, people spent time with their families. Some prayed, some cried, some stared at the sky and waited for the end. In space, human ships went dark. They turned off their engines, their communications, everything that might give away their position. They floated in silence among the asteroids and moons, waiting. Helena sat alone in her quarters for an hour. She looked at a photograph of her daughter, who lived on the colony world of New Helsinki. She thought about the world her daughter might grow up in if this plan failed, a world of slavery, a world without hope. Then she put the photograph away and returned to the bridge. "All ships report ready," James said. "Good." Helena sat in her command chair. "When they come, we do not fight like they expect. We do not form lines. We do not follow rules. We hit them, we run. We hit them again. We make them pay for every kilometer they advance." The bridge crew nodded. The deadline came. The Zethkai fleet began to move. 400 silver ships advancing toward Earth in perfect formation. Helena opened a channel to the enemy flagship. "Commander Vorthax," she said. Her voice was calm. "Steady. We have a message for your empire, but we prefer to deliver it in person." She closed the channel. "All ships," she said, "begin Operation Hornet's Nest." Across the solar system, human ships came alive. Engines fired. Weapons charged. And humanity went to war against a galactic empire. Not to win. Not yet. But to teach the empire something it had forgotten long ago. That even the smallest creature can have sharp teeth. The first wave of human ships came out of the asteroid belt, like angry wasps. There were 30 of them, small and fast. They did not fly in formation. They scattered in all directions, each one taking a different path toward the Zethkai fleet. Vorthax watched them come with amusement. 30 ships against 400. This is their grand strategy? Orders. Commander? His weapons officer asked. Destroy them. Standard targeting protocols. The Zeth-Kai fleet opened fire. Their weapons were precise and powerful. Energy beams crossed the void, striking human ships and turning them into expanding clouds of debris. In seconds, 20 of the 30 ships were destroyed, but Vorthax noticed something strange. The human ships were not trying to dodge. They were not returning fire. They were just flying straight at his fleet, as fast as their engines could push them. Commander, an officer said, his voice uncertain. The remaining ships are not slowing down. They are accelerating. What? The 10 surviving human ships slammed into the Zeth-Kai formation. They did not try to stop. They crashed directly into the silver warships and exploded. The explosions were massive. Each human ship had been packed with nuclear warheads. The blasts tore through Zeth-Kai shields and ripped open hulls. When the fire cleared, 12 Imperial ships were destroyed. 8 more were badly damaged. Vorthax stared at the tactical display. His mouth hung open. They crashed into us on purpose, an officer whispered. Those ships had crews, living beings. They killed themselves to hurt us. For the first time in 200 years of conquest, Vorthax felt something cold in his chest. It was not fear. Not yet. But it was close. Impossible, he said. No species does this. It is against all rules of war. But the humans were not following any rules. The second wave came from a different direction. These ships were larger, and they did not crash into the fleet. Instead, they fired from long range, then turned and ran before the Zeth-Kai could respond. When the Imperial ships pursued, they flew into traps. Asteroids with hidden engines slammed into them. Mines exploded. Ambushes waited behind every moon. The battle spread across the entire solar system. The Zeth-Kai tried to form their standard combat formations, but the humans would not let them. Every time the Imperial ships gathered together, human vessels would strike from unexpected angles, do damage, and disappear. Why will they not stand and fight? Vorthax demanded. He was angry now. This was not how war was supposed to work. They run like cowards. Commander, his tactical officer said carefully, we have lost 47 ships. The humans have lost over 100, but their losses are mostly small vessels and converted cargo ships. Our losses are frontline warships. Vorthax understood what the officer was telling him. The humans were trading cheap ships for expensive ones. They were bleeding the Imperial fleet slowly. He wanted to be angry at the humans for their dishonorable tactics, but a small part of him was beginning to feel something else, something that felt almost like respect. The battle continued for 2 weeks. The Zeth-Kai advanced, but every kilometer cost them. Human ships attacked at all hours, giving the Imperial crews no rest. Electronic attacks disrupted communications between vessels. False signals led ships into ambushes. The perfect formation that had conquered 200 species fell apart into chaos. And then came the boarding parties. Captain Marcus Chen led the assault on Vorthax's flagship. His team of 50 soldiers used breaching pods, small vessels designed to crash into enemy ships and cut through their hulls. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was exactly the kind of thing the Zeth-Kai never expected. The pods hit the flagship's hull and burned through. Human soldiers poured into the alien ship, weapons firing. They wore heavy armor and carried automatic weapons. They moved in small groups, covering each other, pushing forward through corridors filled with enemies. The Zeth-Kai crew fought back, but they were not prepared for this. They had not fought hand-to-hand in centuries. Their soldiers were trained for ship-to-ship combat, for orbital bombardment, for clean and distant warfare. They did not know how to handle humans who came at them with guns and knives and bare hands. Marcus pushed forward. He took a wound to his shoulder, then another to his leg. He kept moving. Around him, his soldiers fell. 30 of the 50 were dead before they reached the bridge. But they reached the bridge. The doors exploded inward. Marcus and his remaining soldiers stormed in, weapons firing. Zeth-Kai officers fell. Guards tried to fight back and were cut down. And then Marcus stood face to face with Commander Vorthax. The alien was tall, almost 3 meters. His 4 eyes looked down at the small, bleeding human with something between confusion and hatred. You are dying, Vorthax said. Your species is dying. Why do you keep fighting? Marcus laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. Because that is what humans do, he said. We fight. We have always fought. Each other, our environment, our own limitations. We do not know how to stop. He reached into a pouch on his armor and pulled out a small data chip. I am not here to kill you, Marcus said. I am here to deliver a message. From humanity to your empire. He threw the chip at Vorthax's feet. Read it. Share it with your emperor. And think very carefully about what you do next. Vorthax looked at the chip, then at the human. Marcus was barely standing. He was losing blood fast. His soldiers were wounded or dead. He had no way to escape. You know you will die here, Vorthax said. Marcus nodded. I know. But I have done what I came to do. And my people will remember. That is enough. He collapsed. Vorthax stood in silence for a long moment. Then, slowly, he picked up the data chip. He did not know what was on it. But for the first time in his long career, he was afraid to find out. Outside, the battle continued. Human ships kept attacking. The Imperial fleet kept bleeding. And somewhere in the void, Admiral Helena Vasquez watched her tactical display and waited. The message had been delivered. Now everything depended on what the Empire would do with it. The Galactic Empire issued a warning, but humanity's fleet had a different kind of message. The throne world of the Zethkai Empire was called Eternal. It was a planet covered entirely by one massive city, home to 40 billion beings. At its center stood the Imperial Palace, a structure so large it had its own weather system. Emperor Zethral IX sat on a throne that had been used by his family for 6,000 years. He was old, even by Zethkai standards, and he had ruled the empire for 3 centuries. In all that time, he had never received a message like this one. Commander Vorthax knelt before him, his head bowed in shame. Explain, the emperor said. His voice was soft, but everyone in the throne room felt its weight. Your Majesty, Vorthax said. The humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They do not fight according to any rules we recognize. They sacrifice themselves willingly. They attack without warning and retreat before we can respond. In 3 weeks of combat, we have lost 87 warships. 87 ships? The Emperor leaned forward. Against primitives who have been in space for only 3 centuries? Yes, Your Majesty. And they show no signs of stopping. Our crews are exhausted. Our formations are broken. Every time we think we have gained an advantage, they find a new way to hurt us. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again. And the message? The one the human soldier delivered? Vorthax held up the data chip. I have not opened it, Your Majesty. I thought it should be seen by you first. The Emperor gestured to one of his advisors. The advisor took the chip and inserted it into a display system. The throne room filled with light as the message appeared. It was not a video. It was not a surrender. It was something far more dangerous. It was a report. A detailed analysis of the Zethkai Empire, its military, its economy, its political structure. The humans had studied everything. They had identified weaknesses that the Empire did not even know it had. The message showed star charts, not of human space, but of Imperial territory. Shipyards, agricultural worlds, mining operations, communication relays. The infrastructure that kept the Empire running. And then came the words, to the Emperor of the Zethkai. The message read, we are the humans of Earth. You gave us a choice between slavery and death. We have chosen a third option. The Emperor's advisors shifted nervously. No one had ever spoken to the Empire like this. We know we cannot defeat you in open battle. Your fleet is larger. Your technology is better. If you send enough ships, you will eventually destroy us. This is simple mathematics, and we are not fools. But we want you to understand what that victory will cost. The display changed to show a timeline. It showed projections of casualties. It showed economic losses. It showed the resources that would be needed to completely destroy humanity. Ship by ship, world by world. We estimate it will take you between 5 and 10 years to eliminate us completely. In that time, you will lose between 300 and 500 warships. You will spend resources that could support a dozen colonies. Your soldiers will die by the thousands. And that is not the worst part. The Emperor leaned forward, his 4 eyes fixed on the display. The worst part is what happens after we are dead. Because we will not die quietly. We will broadcast everything, every battle, every victory, no matter how small. Every time we make your ships burn, the entire galaxy will know. Right now, every species in your empire believes that resistance is impossible. They believe that the Zethkai cannot be defeated. That is why they stay obedient. That is why they do not rebel. But what happens when they see a primitive species from a backwater star system make you bleed? What happens when they watch your perfect fleet struggle against creatures you called inferior? What happens when they learn that the Zethkai can be hurt? The message paused. Then came the final section. We are not asking you to surrender. We know you would never do that. We are offering you something else. A way out that costs you nothing but pride. Declare our region of space quarantined. Tell your subjects that humanity is too primitive, too diseased, too worthless to bother conquering. Say that we are not worth the resources. Make up whatever story you want, then leave. Take your fleet and go. Never return to our space, and we will never come to yours. You will lose nothing real. No territory you actually hold. No species you have already conquered. Just a few star systems on the edge of the galaxy that you never controlled anyway. Or you can continue fighting. You will win eventually. But you will win a victory that costs you your empire. Because once the other species see that resistance is possible, they will start to resist. Maybe not immediately, maybe not all at once, but the idea will spread. And ideas are harder to kill than species. The choice is yours. The Terran Confederacy. The throne room was silent. The Emperor stared at the message for a long time. His advisors did not dare to speak. Finally, the Emperor turned to his military commanders. Is this true? He asked. Could destroying these humans really inspire rebellion across the Empire? The commanders looked at each other nervously. One of them, an old general who had served for centuries, stepped forward. Your Majesty, he said, the humans have already killed more of our soldiers than the last 5 pacification campaigns combined. Word is spreading. The subjugated species are beginning to talk. There are rumors, whispers, stories about the species that fights back. And if we destroy the humans, then they become martyrs, symbols, the species that died rather than submit. Every rebel, every dreamer, every being who has ever resented our rule will tell their story. It will grow in the telling. In 100 years, the humans will be legends, and legends are very dangerous things. The Emperor closed his eyes. He had ruled for 3 centuries. He had never faced a decision like this one. He thought about his empire. 12,000 years of dominion, hundreds of conquered species, the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known, and he thought about the humans. Small, primitive, weak, but willing to die rather than kneel, willing to sacrifice everything just to prove that resistance was possible. He opened his eyes. Contact the human commander, he said. Tell her I wish to meet. His advisors looked shocked. An emperor did not meet with primitives. It was beneath his dignity. But Zethral 9 was old, and he was wise. And he understood something that his advisors did not. The humans had already won. Not the war. The war was not winnable for them, but they had won something more important. They had made him afraid. And an emperor who felt fear was an emperor who needed to be very, very careful about his next move. The meeting took place on a space station in deep space, far from any planet. It was neutral ground, built in 3 days by human engineers who worked without sleep to make it ready. Admiral Helena Vasquez arrived with a single escort ship. She wore her dress uniform, cleaned and pressed despite the weeks of battle. She wanted to look like a leader, not a survivor. The Zethkai delegation arrived with 50 warships. They surrounded the station like a wall of silver blades, a show of strength. But Helena noticed that they kept their distance. They were being careful. The Emperor did not come in person. That would have been too much. Instead, he sent his eldest son, Prince Zethvak, to speak for him. The prince was young by Zethkai standards, only 400 years old. But he had his father's sharp mind. They met in a chamber at the center of the station. Helena on one side of a simple table, the prince on the other. No weapons allowed, no guards in the room. Admiral Vasquez, the prince said. His voice was cold, formal. You have caused my father a great deal of trouble. That was the intention, Your Highness, Helena replied. The prince's 4 eyes studied her. She was so small compared to him, so fragile. And yet she had brought his empire to this moment. My father has read your message, the prince said. He finds your logic compelling. He is prepared to offer terms. Helena nodded. I am listening. The Empire will withdraw from your space. Your region will be declared a quarantine zone. Our official position will be that humanity is a primitive species, diseased and dangerous, not worth the cost of conquest. Your people will never be spoken of in imperial records. As far as the galaxy knows, you do not exist. Helena considered this. It was almost exactly what she had asked for. Almost. And in exchange, she asked, you will accept certain restrictions. You will not expand beyond your current borders. You will not contact any species currently under imperial rule. You will stay in your corner of the galaxy and never come out. For how long? Forever. Helena was quiet for a moment. The prince watched her, waiting for her response. I have a counteroffer, she said. The prince's eyes narrowed. You are not in a position to negotiate. We are offering you survival. That should be enough. Survival is not enough, Helena said. Not for humans. We need something more. What? We accept the quarantine. We will not expand. We will not seek out your subjects. But if anyone comes to us, any species that finds their way to human space seeking help, we will not turn them away. The prince went still. You are asking us to allow refugees. I am asking you to look the other way. A quarantine zone that no one enters or leaves. What happens inside that zone is not your concern. If some beings occasionally disappear into the quarantine and are never seen again, well, that is simply the danger of the forbidden region. The prince understood what she was really asking. She was asking for permission to become a symbol, a place where the hopeless could go, a light in the darkness for every being who dreamed of freedom. My father will not like this, the prince said. Your father does not have to like it. He just has to decide whether it is worth another 5 years of war. The negotiation continued for 6 hours. They argued over details, boundaries, exact wording, but in the end, both sides knew how it would end. The Empire could not afford the cost of total victory, and humanity could not accept anything less than a future worth living for. The agreement was signed. The quarantine was established, and the Zethkai fleet withdrew from human space, never to return. Helena watched them go from the bridge of the Defiance. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt tired. So many had died to reach this moment. Ships destroyed, colonies burned, friends lost, but they had done it. They had faced an empire of 12,000 years and refused to kneel. Not through strength, not through superior technology, but through sheer stubborn refusal to accept the role that had been assigned to them. The years passed. Human space healed. New ships were built. Colonies were rebuilt. Children grew up in a galaxy where humanity was free, and slowly, quietly, others began to arrive. The first refugees came after 3 years. A small ship carrying a dozen beings from a species Helena did not recognize. They had heard rumors, stories told in secret on subjugated worlds, stories about the species that had said no. They arrived at the edge of human space, damaged and desperate, and sent a single message. Is it true? Are you the ones who made the Empire bleed? Helena, now gray-haired and retired from active service, received the message at her home on New Helsinki. She smiled when she read it. It is true, she sent back. Welcome to human space. You are safe now. More came. A trickle at first, then a steady stream. Species that had been conquered. Species that had never stopped dreaming of freedom. They crossed the void in secret, risking everything, drawn by the legend of the humans who had refused to surrender. Captain Marcus Chen survived his wounds. He spent 2 years recovering, then returned to duty. He was promoted to admiral and given command of a new project, preparing humanity for the day when the quarantine would end. Because Helena knew, and Marcus knew, and everyone who understood history knew, that empires do not last forever. The Zethkai would grow old. They would grow weak. And when they finally fell, humanity would be ready. 10 years after the agreement, Admiral Helena Vasquez received one final group of refugees. They were small beings, barely a meter tall, with fur the color of autumn leaves. Their homeworld had been destroyed. Their species numbered less than 1,000. Their leader stood before Helena with tears in her eyes. We traveled for 2 years to reach you, she said. We lost half our people on the journey. But we had to come. We had to see for ourselves. See what? Helena asked. Proof that hope is real. Proof that the strong do not always win. Proof that somewhere in this cold galaxy, There are beings who believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Helena looked at the small, desperate beings who had crossed a galaxy to find her species. She thought about all the dead, all the sacrifices, all the blood that had been spilled so that humanity could remain free, and she realized that the victory they had won was bigger than survival. They had become something more than a species. They had become an idea, a promise, a light that would keep burning no matter how dark the galaxy became. She opened her arms to the refugees. "Welcome," she said. "You have come a long way, but you are home now." Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. The Empire still ruled most of the galaxy. Trillions of beings still lived in chains, but in one small corner of the void, there was a place where the enslaved could become free, where the broken could become whole, where hope was not just a dream but a reality. The galaxy was old, and the Empire was ancient, and humanity was very, very young. But the young have one advantage that the old have forgotten. They still believe that tomorrow can be different from today, and sometimes, against all odds, they are right.